Hey guys, just a quick warning to you. This is a little bit of a longer video. If you haven't noticed, it's about 14 minutes long, but that's kind of what it's got to be sometimes when we're doing these e-learning, online learning exercises. So if you need to take breaks, but you do need to watch this whole thing, and you won't be able to click on the links in the video, but you're going to have to look at the slideshow itself that's in its learning. You're going to have to look at the videos there too. Once again, take breaks. You can watch the YouTube videos from the links tomorrow if you'd like, but you need to watch all of it. Okay. All right. Enjoy. Hey everybody, and welcome back to week 3 of e-learning or online learning or whatever you want to call it during quarantining. In fact, what I'm calling it is learning-teening because you're learning and quarantining, learning-teening. It's going to work. It's gold. I love that so much. Anyway, get your voices warmed up because we have a great lesson on dialects and accents this week. It's a lot of fun. I really wish we could be doing this one in person, but we're going to make the best of it, and you're going to have some great performances by the end of this week. Okay, so to get started, there is a difference between a dialect and an accent. Now, they are very similar, and sometimes people will use them interchangeably, but they are different words. So let's make sure we understand that first. Before we even get to that, let's talk about language itself. Language is just a way of communicating from one person to another person. Usually it uses words. Sometimes there's body language involved, and in fact, I would argue that body language is usually a stronger way to communicate than just through the words you're using. We'll talk about this with expression a lot. However, getting back to the point, language is just a series of words that people use to communicate to one another. And depending on what part of the world you're in, you're going to use different types of languages. So English is a language that's used all around the world. Thank you to primarily to colonialism in the 1800s, where England went around and pretty much laid claim to a lot of countries that weren't even theirs. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But either way, English, Spanish, Mandarin Chinese, French, German. These are all languages that people use to communicate to one another. So there's 1,000 different ways to say hello. Hello, hola, guten Tag, bonjour. There's a bunch of different ways to say hello in these different languages. Now, back to dialects and accents. A dialect is within the language. So when people speak English, there are many different types of dialects within the English language. For instance, in the South, we have a bunch of words and phrases that we use that may not be used in jolly old England, that may not be used out in Hollywood in California, or in New York, or in Seattle, Washington, or in Australia. No, we have our own special type of dialect, just like they have their own dialects. So there's a bunch of ways to say hello in these different languages. Hello, generally English. Howdy, more in the South. How you doing, more in the Northeast, like a New York thing. Sup, more like a California thing. How's it, which is farther out, like even in Hawaii. And hi there, which is in the Midwest. Now I'm doing my best not to use an accent, which is kind of hard because some of these dialects are just more suited to the accents that go with them. Like it's hard to say howdy like that without saying howdy because it just matches. Or how's it? More of a surfer kind of thing from Hawaii. Or even hey there, hello there from Wisconsin in the Midwest. So different accents work best with different dialects. Sometimes it just seems weird to hear someone say howdy like with a British English accent. I can't, it's hard for me to even do. Anyway, let's move on. So for instance, the expressions from the South, you might hear y'all. I know they say y'all all over the place now, but it got started in the South. That's ours, baby. We're going to own that. Or britches. You don't really hear britches too much anywhere besides the South. Or a phrase like running around with like a chicken with its head cut off. Or my personal favorite, well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. Once again, very hard for me not to use the actual Southern accent when using this dialect, but it is what it is. So for instance, you add that accent and it makes more sense. Like, well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. Sounds a lot better than if you were to say, like, with a California type drawl, well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. Just doesn't seem right. So yes, dialect are the phrases in slang, whereas the accent is actually the sound. In fact, if you want more southern sayings and things like that, some of them I've never even heard of, but they sound pretty southern. You can't do it in the video, but if you look at the slideshow, you can actually click on this link and get all kinds of fun things. So an accent, in dialect. Oh, here's another thing for dialect. What do you call a sugary carbonated beverage? Well, down south, we pretty much call them all Coke. Coca-Cola is a Coke. Dr. Pepper is a Coke. Pepsi is a Coke. Sprite is a Coke. They're all Coke to us. But if you go up north into the Midwest, you hear things like pap. Oh, go get yourself a pop out of the icebox. If you look to the West Coast and the East Coast, particularly the Northeast, you get everything being called a soda, which probably makes more sense than calling everything a Coke. But hey, down here, we call them Coke. Yeah. Now, as we look at our accents, this is the pronunciation. This is the actual sound of your voice, all right? It's not the words, even though the words matter. The words matter, but the accent is the sound, the way it comes out. So, it's about the mouth shape and sound placement. If this sounds familiar, hopefully it does, think way back months ago when we talked about voice of the actor. Bunch of stuff's going to come back up, and it might give some of you nightmares, but I got to bring it up because that's how we get better at accents. So if you look at our articulators, our lips, our teeth, and our tongue, it's going to help us make certain sounds. Here's an image that you may recognize. These are your articulators, the lips, all right, the teeth, the tongue. All of these things help you to shape the sound of your voice. So if you remember this one kind of shows with, in fact, we'll make it a little bit bigger, where each of the consonants is formed in your mouth. Way up in the lips with the p and the b and the and the w. But if you go further back in the back of your mouth, the k, g, all of those things and everything in between, it will help you to use these consonants when working with accents. Vowels play maybe even a bigger part in an accent than the consonants themselves. Both are important, but you got to pay attention to how those vowels sound, all right? And it'll become more clear when you watch these videos. For instance, we talked about how to use the word meow to really show where each of the vowels happen in your mouth. So for instance, if you stretch it out, you get the I, a, o, u. If you say meow, you get all of those vowels. Meow. Does it feel weird? Yeah. Does it look weird? Yeah. Does it sound weird? Oh yeah. But I'm telling you guys, you got to work with the consonants and the vowels. So for instance, here's a little image to show like where the tongue actually is in your mouth when you're actually making these sounds. So the pink thing is your tongue. How much does it fill going up to the roof of your mouth? How far forward is it? How far back is it in your mouth? I know it looks a little bit weird, but this is what's happening in all of us when we make these vowel sounds. So, if we're looking at these accents, they are a skill. They can be learned. Yes, some people pick up on accents more easily than others. It just happens. They have the ear for it. They're good at mimicry. They're good at copying what they hear. You may be someone like that yourself. But some people do, it comes easier to. If it doesn't come easily to you, don't give up. It just takes practice and time. It's a skill. So when you look at the time that it takes, don't get stressed out. Think about it like rehearsal. Do a little bit at a time. Don't try to do it all at once. And please don't try to learn more than one accent at a time. Don't try to learn an Irish accent to go along with your, Southern accent to go with your New York accent all at once. No, focus on one at a time and do just a little bit at a time. Another thing that will help is if you're actually working in the bathroom or even in your room, just looking into a mirror to watch the shape of your mouth. All right? It will help you to figure out, like, if it's shaped more like this, what kind of sounds do I get when my mouth is more forward? Or what kind of sounds do I get when it's further back and stretched out flat? It changes everything. So mouth shape, look into a mirror. It will help you out. Sometimes you got to look at the script and just look at each word and spell it out phonetically. phonetically, based on sounds, not the way it's spelled, but just how does it sound. This is where you can really use all these little symbols for consonants and here are all the symbols for the different vowels you might have. This is all part of the International Phonetic Alphabet. You don't have to worry about it. I didn't learn about it till college years, frankly. But if you want to go nuts, there's plenty of videos online to take a look at. So, once again, look at the words phonetically, not by the way they're spelled. Let's talk about the British accent, since this is the way that this is our project for the week. I want you to choose a monologue. I provided some. You can find some on your own if you'd like. But you're going to have to do it in some sort of a British accent. So when we're looking at the British accents, first of all, British accent doesn't even mean anything because all of the things listed here are British accents. The English accent, which, well, we'll get to that in a second. The English accent, Scottish accent, Irish, Welsh, Australian, New Zealand, South African, and there's many, many more within just those accents, you know. Within England itself, there's like 30 different accents. So by all means, you're going to have to choose one and go with it. Now, why is it not just called a British accent? Well, here's a video if you want a history lesson. We're not going to watch it together. If you want to watch it on your own, you can. I found it interesting. May not be for everybody, but I highly recommend it if you can. You can't click on the link in this video, but go to the slideshow and you can find it there. This video I do want you to watch because it goes through all of the British Isles, all those islands. So you're going to get, you know, as you can see, it's highlighted here like Northern Ireland, but it's going to go into Scotland. It's going to go through England. It's going to go through Ireland. It's going to go through Wales. So please take a look at this video. Also, you can't click on the link here, but there are tons of videos in this playlist I put together for you to kind of like, some of them go through and show you how to do it. Some of them are just interesting to listen to people speak with these different accents. But not to be left out, there are several American accents. And once again, American is in quotations because there's not just one American accent. And I did like group in some things like, for instance, Latin American accents. They're all over the place too. You know, and that's the wonderful thing about our planet is that everybody's a little bit different. Everybody speaks a little bit different. And we just have to embrace this. It's part of our culture. So keep that in mind. So to review, language, dialect, and accent are all different things. Language are the words we use. Dialect are certain phrases and slangs we use. And accent is the actual way that our language and dialects sound. Sound. That's where your work should be put in, is how it sounds primarily. Performing accents is a skill. You can learn to do it. It may not come easily. You're going to have to put in the time, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And of course, when learning an accent, you have to train your voice to work a little bit differently. That's why I encourage you, do it in front of a mirror so you can work it and practice it. Now, you're only having to do one monologue. You can imagine what it's like for actors that have to do whole plays that last like 2 hours long or whole films where they're working on that film for, you know, sometimes months at a time. It takes time to work on it. You just have to put in the work. This is the most important thing. Guys, allow yourself to feel silly when you're doing this. It's going to feel silly. It's going to look silly. People are going to walk by your room and wondering what the heck is going on in there as you're working on this. It's okay. It's okay to be weird sometimes. And remember, this isn't being weird, all right? You're emulating the way people actually speak in other parts of the world. Yeah, it's weird to us in Houston, Texas, but you know what? It's real. This is the way it works sometimes, you know? It's like people all over the world are going to sound different. They're going to speak differently, and that's fine. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So have fun with it. Embrace it. All right, guys. I know this video is a little bit longer, but you know I'm having to cram in several lessons into one little thing. If you had to take a break midway, that's okay too. All right, guys. Take a look at the assignment. Essentially, you got to learn a monologue. In fact, I say learn a monologue. You don't even have to have it memorized, but you are going to have to perform it with an actual accent. So you can look at it. You can have notes written down in it with blocking if you want to act it out. But really, I'm just listening for it. All right? So give it a shot. There's a lot of samples there. There's a lot of examples there to work with. So please, please, please take a look at those monologues. Take a look at the videos for both the British accents and the American accents. There's some pretty entertaining stuff in there. Okay. Yeah, have fun with this, guys. Be silly. It's okay. All right. Love you. Got your back.